If you are a female runner over 45 and the scale is not moving, even though you are training consistently, this is probably going to feel uncomfortably familiar. You tighten your nutrition, you add a few extra kilometers to your run, you promise yourself you will just be more disciplined. And somehow, you end up more tired, more hungry, and staring at the same number on the scale or a higher one. That is the part that messes with your head. Because you're not lazy, you're not inconsistent, you are not lacking willpower. So what is actually going on? In this video, I'm going to walk you through 7 critical mistakes that stop female runners over 45 from losing weight. And I'll show you what to adjust in a way that protects your running instead of sabotaging it. We coach female runners through this exact stage every day. And the reason it feels confusing is because most advice zooms in on one place, like hormones or calories, and it misses the full picture. The first mistake is one that feels like the most disciplined thing you could possibly do. Let me start with a picture that might feel familiar. You're relaxing at home and decide that you want some music, so you turn up the dial on your speaker. Nothing changes, so you turn it up again. Still nothing. So you keep turning, louder, louder, louder. But the problem was never the volume. The speakers weren't plugged in. And a lot of female runners over 45 are doing exactly that with their training. They keep turning that dial. And the first mistake lives right there. I worked with a runner recently who described herself as doing everything right. She ran 5 days a week. She added a 6th day when the scale stalled. She squeezed in intervals because she had read that high intensity burns more fat. She cut out snacks. She stopped eating bread. She went to bed hungry more often than not. And she felt really proud of her discipline. 3 months later, she felt exhausted, flat, and frustrated. Her weight had not changed. What she did next was predictable. She decided she needed to try harder. This is the first critical mistake. When progress stalls, you respond by turning up training volume and intensity. It feels logical, right? Running burns calories, so more running should equal more fat loss. But while weight loss is a calorie equation, running is a stress signal for the body. Every time you train, you are asking your body to stress. When recovery capacity matches that stress, you get fitter. When stress outpaces recovery, your body shifts into protection mode. In females over 45, recovery is often more fragile. Sleep may be lighter, life stress is usually higher than it was in your 20s, hormonal fluctuations can amplify perceived effort and delay recovery. When you add more miles to an already stressed system, your body does something intelligent. It figures out other ways to have capacity for that stress. It increases hunger. It can try to conserve energy. You maybe feel hungrier in the afternoon. You definitely move less during the day. You crave a quick fuel. The scale does not then respond in the way you expect. The adjustment is not to abandon running. It is to stop using more running as the first lever. Keep your easy runs genuinely easy. Be honest about how many hard sessions you can recover from. Let training support your body instead of constantly challenging it. Fat loss after 45 is far more responsive to muscle preservation, daily movements, and structured nutrition than it is to just stacking extra kilometers onto tired legs. Now, let me tell you about another common story. A female runner sits down across from me and says, "I think my metabolism is just broken." Her clothes fit differently. She feels softer around the middle. She's not dramatically changed her eating habits. The only explanation that makes sense to her is that something inside has slowed down. This belief is powerful because body composition does change with age. Lean muscle mass gradually declines if it's not trained. Fat distribution shifts, particularly around the abdomen. But large metabolic studies tracking energy expenditure across adulthood show that total daily energy expenditure remains relatively stable throughout midlife, with more significant declines appearing only later, more likely closer to 60 years old and beyond. So if your metabolism has not suddenly collapsed at 45, why does fat loss feel harder? because muscle mass and movement patterns change quietly. Muscle tissue influences how your body handles glucose. It plays a role in insulin sensitivity. It supports strength, posture, and running economy. If muscle declines, you are not only necessarily burning dramatically fewer calories at rest, but your body composition shifts in ways that make fat loss feel harder. At the same time, non-exercise movements often decreases. You may still be training consistently, but outside of those sessions, you sit more, recover more passively, and move less without noticing. Those small daily reductions in movements add up over months and years. The second critical mistake is blaming metabolism instead of looking at muscle and movement. Before you cut calories further, measure 2 simple things for 2 weeks: your average daily steps and your approximate protein intake. Most female runners discover that while they are training hard, their daily steps outside of workouts are lower than they assumed, and their protein intake is insufficient to support muscle retention. You cannot diet your way out of muscle loss. In actual fact, you can exacerbate muscle loss with a poor diet. There is another pattern that feels sensible on the surface. A runner decides carbohydrates must be the problem. She has read about insulin resistance increasing with age. It's all over Instagram and Facebook, right? She hears that cutting carbs lowers fat. So she reduces bread, rice, fruits, even oats. She keeps her running schedule the same though. And at first, yes, she feels lighter. Then her easy runs start to feel harder. She wakes up at night. She finds herself thinking about chocolate mid-afternoon. She feels both wired and tired. The third critical mistake is cutting carbohydrates too aggressively while maintaining training load. For runners, carbohydrates are not just calories. They are fuel for your sessions. When you underfuel training, perceived effort increases. Cortisol response rises for the same workload, and recovery slows. Your body interprets the combination of exercise and restriction as stress. That stress response increases cravings later in the day, particularly for quick, high-energy foods. So instead of creating a stable calorie deficit, you create a cycle. Underfuel, train hard, feel depleted, crave, overeat later, blame yourself. The issue is not carbohydrates. It is timing and total balance. Place the majority of your carbohydrates around training. Eat enough protein at each meal to support muscle retention and satiety. Avoid chronic underfueling. Low energy availability in female athletes is associated with poorer recovery, increased injury risk, and less favorable body composition outcomes. You cannot consistently restrict and expect your body to feel safe enough to release fat. Now let us talk about the lever that many women avoid because it feels unfamiliar. A runner once told me, "I just want to feel firm again." She was not dramatically overweight, she was running consistently, but she felt softer, particularly through her hips and her abdomen. Her legs did not feel as powerful. She assumed she needed to lose more weight. What she actually needed was to change the stimulus. The fourth critical mistake is treating strength as optional. After 45, strength training is not about becoming bulky. It's about preserving lean muscle mass, supporting bone density, and improving insulin sensitivity. Muscle tissue plays a central role in glucose regulation. It supports metabolic health. It improves running economy and joint stability. Without strength training, you can lose weight and still feel softer because you have lost muscle alongside fat. 2 full body strength sessions per week can significantly slow or even reverse age-related muscle loss. Progressive overload matters. Consistency matters more than perfection. If 3 sessions fit your schedule, excellent. If not, 2 done consistently will change your body composition more than occasional enthusiasm. This is exactly why we created a free at-home strength plan specifically for female runners over 45. It focuses on the major muscle groups that support running and metabolic health, and it is realistic for busy lives. And if this kind of structured, physiology-based guidance resonates with you, consider subscribing. Female runners over 45 are one of the fastest growing groups in endurance sport, yet most mainstream weight loss advice is not designed with your physiology in mind. This channel exists to give you clarity instead of confusion. Let us zoom out to your entire day. You complete a 45-minute run and feel accomplished. Then you sit at your desk for hours. Then you commute home, likely while sitting. You unwind on the couch because you are tired. The fifth critical mistake is ignoring non-exercise movements. Non-exercise activity includes all the small movements you do outside of formal training. Walking around the house, standing, taking stairs, light chores. These movements significantly influence your total daily energy expenditure. As fatigue increases with age and life responsibilities, non-exercise movements often decreases unconsciously. Instead of adding more intense workouts, build a movement baseline. Add a realistic daily step target. Short walks after meals. Standing breaks during the workday. These small adjustments accumulate without adding stress. Fat loss at this stage of life responds better to intelligent consistency than a single heroic effort. Now consider sleep. A runner once told me she was doing everything right, but she woke up at 3 a.m. most nights and struggled to fall back asleep. She was training hard and eating less. She felt consistently tired. The sixth critical mistake is underestimating sleep and stress. Perimenopause and menopause often disrupt sleep quality. Hormonal fluctuations can influence temperature regulation and your sleep architecture. Poor sleep increases hunger hormones, decreases satiety hormones, impairs insulin sensitivity, and reduces recovery capacity. Add high training stress and calorie restriction to that environment, and your body perceives threat. When threat perception rises, fat loss becomes more difficult. The adjustment is not perfection, it's prioritization. Choose one sleep habit to improve. A consistent bedtime window, a cooler room, reducing alcohol closer to bedtime, a short wind-down routine. When life stress is high, adjust training intensity accordingly. Your body adds stress together. It does not separate emotional stress from physical stress. Now let us talk about the scale. 2 women can both lose 1 kilogram. One has lost muscle and water primarily. The other has preserved muscle and reduced fat. The scale shows the same number. Their physiology is very different. The 7th critical mistake is chasing the scale instead of chasing body composition and performance. The scale does not tell you whether you are becoming stronger. It does not tell you whether your insulin sensitivity is improving. It does not tell you whether your easy pace heart rate is dropping. For female runners over 45, the goal is not simply to weigh less, it is to be leaner, stronger, more durable, and energized enough to train consistently. Track your waist circumference, track strength progression, track how your easy runs feel. Use the scale as one data point, not the final judge. And here is where this becomes even more important. Even if you correct all 7 of these mistakes, there is still one pattern that quietly blocks both fat loss and performance for many women over 45. It's not about calories, it's not about hormones. It's about how your training week is structured. Many female runners spend most of their week in a moderate intensity zone that feels productive, but it is difficult to recover from. Not easy enough to truly restore, not hard enough to create meaningful adaptation. That pattern increases fatigue, drives cravings, and keeps the body in a low-grade stress state. If you want fat loss to work alongside faster running instead of against it, you need to understand how intensity distribution shapes recovery, hunger, and adaptation. And that's exactly what I cover in this next video, because feeling less tired is one thing. Training in a way that actually makes you leaner and faster at the same time is what changes everything.